It's hard to predict what will happen in a general election with Donald Trump's name on it, as has been said by our panelists just a second ago. Even harder to picture what President Trump's administration might look like. With me now is Matt McDonald, former Associate White House Communications Director, who has joined the growing ranks of Republican policy experts and officials who say they would never work in a Trump White House. Matt, why not?
Well, I think when you look at the election and what's happening with Trump, I mean, I think that a lot of the attention and the discussion that you guys just had about stories about women, and it's all about attributes. People are supporting Donald Trump because he's saying things that nobody else is saying, and that he's sticking it to Washington and all this sort of thing. But the people who actually staff an administration are much more focused on policy, and I think that that's the place where there's just a lot of questions about what he believes, what he thinks, and the fact that a lot of his policies just don't align with kind of typical conservative down-the-line values.
So if he cannot access what you saw, what we were talking about, this long list of individuals who are in the conservative ranks, who are saying, no, I'm not going to jump on this bandwagon, where will he get the talent, and is the talent there for him that he will need to move forward?
Well, there are always, and there are always going to be people who will work for a candidate. There are people who are going to work for his campaign. There would be people who are going to work for an administration. It's just a question of whether you're getting your top pick or your second pick or your third pick, and who's willing to do it. And I think that, when you think about a campaign, people might be more interested in working for a campaign if they think that he has a shot of winning, and that will attract some attention if he continues to see polls that maybe have him competitive with Hillary Clinton. When you get to an administration, it becomes a different question of, do you actually align with what he is talking about, the agenda he's putting forward? And that's a much, much bigger question.
As his platform evolves, as we have seen just in the last 2 weeks, John Mashburn, as a data point here, he was a former chief of staff to Senator Thom Tillis. He joined Trump's campaign as policy director. As you know, Jeff Sessions, longtime aide, Stephen Miller has also climbed aboard the Trump train, and we're not even officially in the general election. Is that progress?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is, but I don't think it's surprising given the fact that he's secured the nomination and he's going to be the nominee. I think what's not progress for the Trump campaign is the fact that you kind of have these sequential days of, I'm going to raise taxes, I'm going to lower taxes, I'm not going to pay our bills, I'm going to pay our bills, we're going to get rid of the debt, we're not going to get rid of the debt. It's just a complete shotgun approach, and it lends an air of incoherence about his policy acumen and his policy plans, and none of that gives confidence to people who focus on policy in an election or who think about joining an administration.
And whether policy will be the issue as we get to November. One of the things that you watch is the arc, the stage of development in developing, for instance, the cabinet. And we did a little digging, and we looked back to Mitt Romney in 2012. At this point, he was already vetting his cabinet members, determining what those names were going to be. Donald Trump doesn't seem to be close to that.
Well, I think Trump has run a campaign that has been lean by historical standards in the extreme. I mean, for the amount of earned media that he gets just from tweeting, it's kind of novel. I'm not sure that when you get to the side of planning for a potential administration, thinking about a transition, thinking about who your team may be on that context, I think that lean model doesn't really apply in the same way, and he probably has a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, you were saying also in this conversation, Matt, that there are other folks out there, but if he doesn't reach out to people like you, the big brains that are sitting around, there's only a certain number of big brains out there, and that could hurt him long term. And what has been called brazen ambition by him is not going to work all by itself.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of the question here is how much Trump can reinvent himself in the general. I mean, there's been this theory that, once Trump gets the general, he's going to somehow change, be a different candidate, be more accommodating, pivot, all this sort of stuff. We haven't seen it at all. I mean, I think the only way that he's ever going to get a chance of, I mean, on some level, this question that we're having may be completely moot if he continues to kind of, run a campaign that just alienates tons of people, and that it's not going to win at the end of the day. So the question is he ever going to change? And we haven't seen any evidence of that so far.
Okay, big brain. Matt McDonald, former White House Associate Communications Director. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Richard.
All righty. Next.